As an adult, there's something powerful and nostalgic about reflection. More specifically, there's something powerful about reflecting on our childhood and acknowledging those habits that have helped to make us the people we are today. You see, no matter who we are, we all have those habits. As a child, our habits can be as practical as making our beds in the morning, or even as trivial as blowing in a game cartridge because we really think that's going to prevent the game from freezing. Spoiler alert for all gamers, it doesn't work. Nevertheless, these habits work together to help us make sense of, respond to, and navigate life. One childhood habit, however, that I think we often overlook is resiliency. You see, some of you probably think that resiliency is developed either in your teenage years or even adulthood. I will argue, however, that resiliency is actually developed in early childhood. You see, psychology tells us that it's somewhere during the sensory motor stage, which is usually the first 24 to 36 months of life, where a child starts to make sense of its environment, the objects in it, in relation to itself. To kind of contextualize this, by show of hands, how many of us have been in a room where a child has taken a really nasty fall or even a really bad bump to the head and we all hold our breath waiting for that child to cry? Right? We all have. However, to our surprise, that child just gets back up and continues along their day, completely unfazed. In that stressful moment, we start to see not only is resiliency manifested, but we start to see resiliency become a habitual response to adversity. Unfortunately, however, we rarely explore the duality of that response. Now, when I speak to duality of resiliency, I'm merely speaking of two sides of the same coin, a yin and yang of sorts, where no side is greater than the other and they work in tandem to help balance each other out. You see, throughout our lifetime, we're conditioned to only view and utilize resiliency as a shield that helps to protect us from uncomfortable circumstances and situations, both expected and unexpected. Yet we rarely explore what our resiliency looks like as a sword that can help us not only combat adversity, but a sword that can also allow us to take the very thing that uproots us and repurpose it to serve as soil for our growth. Now, I would be completely remiss if I stood before you today and talked to you about this topic and not share that I too struggle with this very thing. You see, it was in 2005, and I was 13 years old. It was the Monday after Thanksgiving, and like any other day, my mom woke me up and told me to get ready for school. And so I started to do so, and out of nowhere, my dad called my name. Now, to be completely transparent, I ignored it the first time because my dad was notorious for being that parent who would call you into a room just to hand him something that was within arm's reach, and I didn't have time for that morning. Nevertheless, I continued to get ready, and I heard my dad call me a second time. And this time, it sounded a little bit more concerning. And so I go into my parents' bedroom, and I see my dad standing there over my mother, and he's talking to 911. As I approach the bed, I see my mom lying there, not breathing. We immediately go to the hospital, and after spending hours in the waiting room and talking to various doctors, unfortunately that day I ended up losing my mother. We all came together as a family to help coordinate her burial arrangements, and that next Monday I was right back into school. And me and my dad were left trying to make sense of our life as we know it now that she's not in it. Fast forward 11 years to the May of 2016, probably the third greatest day of my life. I graduated with my master's degree from Louisiana State University, go Tigers. And the day was filled with friends and family. My aunts, uncles, cousins, and my father were all present. To add more excitement to this moment, I ended up a week later packing my things and relocating to Nashville to start my professional career. And you see, to be honest, I thought I had a handle on this adulting thing because I had my own place, had my own bills in my own name, and on top of that, I had food in the fridge. Mind you, frozen dinners, because I just came from a college setting. But nevertheless, I really felt as though I was living my best life. Well, that is until about 3 weeks into my role here at Vanderbilt, I get a call from my uncle saying that I needed to come home and deal with some decisions regarding my dad's health. Needless to say, I go home and I spend about a week and a half beside my father in ICU. And unfortunately, sad to say, he passed. And similar to my mom, our family rallied together and coordinated the burial arrangements, and we went back to our life as we knew it. And I came back to Nashville and continued as a professional and have been persisting since. And ironically enough, today is my dad's birthday. He would have been 72 years old. You see, I shared these two life hurdles not to bring a somber mood into the room or even to garner pity, but rather to illustrate a couple things that took place during those times. You see, for one, after each traumatic event, I immediately hopped back into my life and picked up where I left off without even trying to understand what just took place and how this is going to impact me. Secondly, between 2005 and 2017, I literally functioned my resiliency as a shield. And like many of us, I took that very same shield and charged into the blows of life while still sustaining damage. Damage that looked like being emotionally callous, being distant in relationships, and even being bitter. And so I knew that I needed to make a change. And so I told myself, I said, Harold, if you're going to press on, you need to learn how to process before you progress. You see, process before progress is my own personal cheat code. Now, for my non-gamers out there, cheat code is a series of buttons that you will enter into a video game in order to unlock a particular skill, character, or even a tool. And you see, for me, this helped to unlock my ability to start to utilize my resiliency as a sword. Now, this isn't a cure-all method to trauma and adversity, but it did help me to be intentional about how I navigated it. The first step in this process is process. And process speaks to doing the most uncomfortable and difficult thing in the face of adversity, and that is to sit in it, reflect, and actually try to extract something valuable out of it. It's easier said than done. But process can also look like something action-oriented. For me, it looked like establishing a work-life balance, reaffirming and reestablishing friendships and past relationships, and even seeking out therapy. When I felt as though I had a handle on the process, I started to move towards the progress. Now, I must underscore that progress isn't to focus solely on how much distance is covered, but rather to focus on always going in a positive direction. And I'm proud to say that even today, I'm still progressing. And this looks differently for all of us. You see, I learned in those moments of my life that what's guaranteed is that we're going to encounter adversity and challenges without a doubt. What isn't guaranteed, however, is how we choose to respond to them. But yet, we have the power of choice. And so, I charge you to leave here today and start to utilize the duality of your resiliency to its fullest potential. Because it takes 21 days to form a new habit. So why not start today? Thank you.